Nigeria's former military head of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, popularly known as IBB, has made a striking revelation about the country's history of military coup, saying no successful coup in Nigeria has ever happened without the involvement of civilians. The former military ruler made the statement during an interview with Badegi 90.1 FM in Minna, Niger State, as part of activities marking his 85th birthday. And his comments raised an uncomfortable question about Nigeria's political history. When soldiers move against the government, are they really acting alone? According to IBB, the answer is no. The former military leader stated that wealthy civilians have historically provided support and fundings for military coups, suggesting that the relationship between military plotters and civilian interest has played a significant role in Nigeria's history of political upheaval. No successful coup in Nigeria's history has ever happened without the involvement of civilians, IBB said. That statement comes from a man who knows Nigeria's military history from the inside. Babangida himself came to power following the August 1985 military coup that removed General Muhammadu Buhari from office. His administration would later become one of the most consequential and controversial military governments in Nigeria's history. But in his latest remarks, IBB shifted attention to another side of coup-making, the civilian involvement that, according to him, often remains less visible. The former military head of state also revisited one of the darkest episodes of his administration, the alleged 1985 coup plot that implicated his close associate and former minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Major General Mamman Vatsa. Vatsa was not simply another military officer in Babangida's story. IBB described him as a schoolmate, a close friend, and someone he considered almost like a brother. That personal relationship, according to Babangida, made the accusations against Vatsa particularly difficult for him to accept. The former military ruler recalled receiving information from a senior military officer that Vatsa and General Mohammed Gado Nasco had allegedly been mentioned in connection with a plot to overthrow his government. Babangida said he summoned both men to his office and personally confronted them over the allegations. According to his account, both officers denied involvement in the alleged plot, but what followed would change their lives forever. IBB said Nasco was eventually cleared of wrongdoing, while a military panel found evidence linking Vatsa to the coup plot. For Babangida, the discovery was devastating. He recalled being shocked and deeply disappointed that someone he had known for so long could be implicated in an attempt to remove his government. But there was another side to the story. Babangida said that despite his personal relationship with Vatsa, military law left him with little room to intervene once the panel established his alleged involvement. There was nothing I could do to exonerate him from the consequences prescribed by military law, IBB said. He described the situation as one in which his hands were tied. Vatsa was subsequently executed in 1986 after being convicted over the alleged coup plot. Decades later, the episode remains one of the most controversial chapters of Nigeria's military era. And Babangida's latest comments bring that history back into focus. The former military ruler is effectively arguing that coups should not be viewed simply as soldiers against civilians. Behind every military takeover, he suggests there can be civilian actors, financiers, and political interests whose roles may always be visible to the public. That claim is particularly significant given Nigeria's long history of military intervention in politics. From the first military coup in 1966 to subsequent takeovers, counter-coups, and political transitions, soldiers repeatedly became central players in Nigeria's political affairs. But IBB's argument introduces another dimension: the possibility that some civilian elites may have supported military interventions when those interventions serve their interest. And that raises a fundamental question about Nigeria's political history. Were military coups purely military operations, or were they sometimes the product of alliances between soldiers and powerful civilians? Babangida's answer is clear. He believes civilians have been involved. His comment also highlights the complicated relationship between political power, wealth, and the military in Nigeria. A military takeover requires more than soldiers with weapons. It can also require information, logistics, financing, political connections, and networks outside the barracks. That is the context in which IBB's statement becomes particularly significant. However, his comments also reopen questions surrounding the decisions taken during his own administration. For many Nigerians, the Babangida era remains associated with both major political and economic reforms and some of the country's most controversial political decisions. The execution of Mamman Vatsa remains particularly sensitive because of the personal relationship between the two men. Babangida's account suggests that the decision was not something he personally welcomed, but rather something he believed the military justice system compelled him to accept. Yet questions surrounding the case have persisted for decades. Was the evidence against Vatsa sufficient? Was the military tribunal fair? Could the sentence have been stopped? And what role, if any, did political considerations play? Those questions remain part of Nigeria's historical debate. But IBB's latest interview provides his own perspective on the episode. At 85, the former military leader is looking back at some of the most consequential moments of his life and Nigeria's political history. His comments about civilian involvement in coup are particularly striking because they challenge the conventional image of military takeovers as events planned and executed entirely within the armed forces. They suggest that the story may be much more complicated. Military officers may carry out the takeover, but powerful civilians' interest can potentially provide the support required to make such an operation possible. For Nigeria, that is a lesson worth remembering. Democracy is not protected only by keeping soldiers inside the barracks. It also depends on political leaders, wealthy individuals, institutions, and citizens respecting constitutional government. And if IBB's historical assessment is correct, then civilian responsibility must be part of any serious conversation about Nigeria's experience with military rule. The former military ruler has now put the issue firmly back on the national agenda. His words will undoubtedly generate debate among historians, politicians, and Nigerians who lived through the military era. Because when a former head of state says that no successful Nigerian coup happened without civilian involvement, the statement demands attention. It forces Nigerians to look beyond the men in uniform and ask who else may be behind the scenes. What do you think about IBB's claim that no successful military coup in Nigeria happened without civilian involvement? Do you believe wealthy and politically connected civilians play a bigger role in Nigeria's military takeovers than the public has been told? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this report informative, like this video subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest political and historical reports. I am Cassie Tony. Many thanks for watching.